What's up guys, this is Chris with Half Chrome, and I've got something just a little bit different for you today. This is the HyperGo RC car from our friends MJX RC. Now MJX, much more well known for their drones, which obviously we're also more well known for. So gonna switch it up a little bit. Definitely not our first rodeo with RC cars. Now, why does this come out? MJX, never done a car before. Why now? At first I thought this thing was gonna be kind of gimmicky, but it has a lot of things in it that I've never seen in an RC car. And a total of 7 different things that I counted up that I really like about this that are non-standard or I've just never seen. So stick around, I'll be right back to go over what's unique about the HyperGo. Welcome back guys. The most obvious differentiating feature, number 1 on my list, is GPS. Now why does an RC car need GPS? Well, first I thought it'd be a little gimmicky, and in reality it probably kind of is. And I'll take you through all the details in the app walkthrough, which I'll stick at the end of this video. But what it is this car can actually interface with your smartphone. You can get a map and max speed and other information about your driving experience, your trip that you do with the car, through an app on your phone. And that is pretty cool. That is very different. I don't know that I'd buy a car just for that, but it definitely adds another dimension to an RC car. As I mentioned, I'll be doing a full app walkthrough to show you that in detail towards the end of the video. Next up, the first thing I noticed about this car is what it was missing. Does anybody see what's missing here? Well, it's the cotter pins. If you have an RC car, you probably are familiar with these cotter pins. I don't know about you, but I hate them. I don't know why these things are still so popular in the hobby. I guess they get the job done, but popping in and out 4 of these every time I want to change a battery or do something else to my car, it's just annoying. That's why I was excited to see them gone here. So let's take a look at what MJX came up with here. Now again, like with all these features, I don't know, maybe these exist other places, but I've never seen them anywhere. So this locks in the cover here, rotate that, flip it, and off it comes. So that was a lot easier. Putting it on, same process obviously, a little bit trickier, takes a little bit of practice, but still easier than 4 cotter pins in my opinion. The cover itself feels a bit thicker, heavier duty than normal. It has this frame attached to it that enables that quick connect, quick disconnect, but also just makes it a little bit more durable, a little more rigid as well. Number 3 on my list, the wheelie bar. So you might have noticed this on the back. This doesn't come installed. You put 4 screws in, and what this keeps this car from doing is doing a backflip when you hit the gas. This thing has a ton of torque, and unlike some other cars, there doesn't seem to be much of a differential between the front and the back, which means when the front wheels spin, the back wheels do as well, no matter what. And so this thing will not temper its acceleration at all when the front wheels lift off the ground. And this wheelie bar really lets you kind of take off and peel out in a much more elegant fashion than either just kind of a slower acceleration like some cars do, or kind of scraping something or doing a backflip, which we don't need. So kind of cool to have a wheelie bar. I've never had that on a car before. Next up on the list is headlights. And these things are bright enough that it makes a difference when you're driving around in the dark. And like me, you put a camera on there, which can be fun as well. So I put a little camera on, I'll show you that later. But it's got a really bright LED headlight, not too bad. I'm going to turn this thing back off because the fan in there, which I also have never seen before, it's got a fan right on the motor, and that thing's pretty loud. Next up on the list is the speed trim. Like many cars, This has a throttle trim, which is really great for driving indoors or when you have a less experienced driver. Lets you kind of throttle that thing down and limit the max speed. And steering trim, obviously, to fine tune what straight ahead means. But the steering kind of sensitivity dial here, it's kind of hard to tell in directions exactly what that's going to do, but this makes it a ton easier to drive at high speeds. If I dial that down, the full range of this control is going to be much less. Makes it a lot easier to drive a car at full speed. I've never had a car like that. I'm sure that feature exists in other cars, but that is a really great feature to have. All right, now that I've got the cover off, I'll just point out, you will see this thing's a little dirty. I've driven this around outside quite a bit already, and some wet snow, salt stuff getting in there. But I wanted to point out the battery. So you can use a standard battery in here. I don't think that's going to be any issue. They use a pretty standard connector here. I forget what this one's called exactly, but very standard. But this is a very modern battery. It turns on and off with like a long press on there. It really securely, nicely clips in there. I really like the ease of use of all that. The final detail I want to show you about this car is just the size of these axles. So I've got a couple other cars this size, and between them I think I counted 5 or 6, maybe 7, actually all but one axle was bent. And these things are like twice the diameter. So I don't really quite know why these axles bend so easily on these cars, but I don't think it's going to happen here. I've crashed this thing really hard. No bent axles, and so it just keeps everything working a lot better, not having those bent axles. And for all these cars, it can be hard to find replacement parts these days, and not having to replace things even better. So really happy with the durability so far, and really happy to see these beefy axles, bigger than anything I've seen. Overall, I was very impressed by the quality of the build. This doesn't look like the kind of car that's like a first try. So maybe somebody's working with MJX on this, but it's really a pretty well polished thing here and a fun experience. We've had some other cars that go up to like 40 miles an hour. This thing, according to GPS, tops out at around 20, which in my opinion for something this size, for me at least, it's more than enough. It's more fun to kind of drift it around, do some tight turns and things, and do some off-roading and kind of see how much you can do with the four-wheel drive. So it's pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about the app and the GPS a little bit more. So overall, connecting this thing wasn't too hard. I wasn't able to use on my iPhone the traditional Bluetooth connection. For some reason it wasn't working. I did go through the app as it says to do in the manual, however, and it connects right away. And once you've connected the first time, as soon as you turn on that remote, it's going to make that connection. It's great that the connection is to the remote, so all the telemetry is going from the car to the remote to your phone. So you don't have to worry about the Bluetooth connection kind of fading on you as the car gets further away. It seems to all be through the remote. And you're getting a lot of information. You're getting the steering information, the throttle, and ultimately the GPS data as well, tell you where that car is. Now, you're not typically driving a car so far away that you need GPS to help you kind of figure out where it is, but you do get that cool map at the end and some other data such as your max speed. I haven't tried exporting that in any way. I don't know if people would be interested in doing that. But let me show you kind of how the app looks and how to walk through it. So the first thing you see when you get in the app is this dashboard. You get throttle information. It says it's a speedometer. It's not actually. It only goes up to 8 miles per hour. It's more of a throttle indicator. And you can also see a steering indicator at the bottom. But where it gets more interesting in my mind is clicking over on the map icon. Once you do that, you'll typically get an indication of kind of how you're doing on your GPS satellites. Here you can see I was indoors at the time and don't have much of a signal yet. Once I was outside, gave it a minute to settle in, had no issue. I got 16 satellites and it seemed pretty accurate. Some of the mapping here, it does look a little bit off. I think that has more to do with the map than the accuracy of the GPS. Some of the menu options here, you can go from full auto to manual. I kept it on manual for my testing, so basically you tell it when to start and stop the recording. In some of the automated modes, it will start and stop automatically depending on your use of the throttle when you come to a complete stop. That means if you let off that throttle, it's going to stop recording. That's not what I wanted, at least. You also have the options to use kilometers or miles per hour. It gives some battery life information and obviously language there. All right, so let's take this thing outside and I'll kind of show you how I record and what that looks like after the recording. All right, I got this thing figured out now. You hit play here, and then you get a timer that starts going. You'll see this in the screen record. And then it starts logging wherever you drive. So let's give it a shot. Alright, not bad. We got some basic stats. We hit 20 miles an hour, average speed 5, distance almost 1/10 of a mile, allegedly. It's hard to believe. But, I mean, it's GPS. How could it be wrong? So there we go. Pretty cool. So while you're driving around, you can actually see the position of the vehicle, and it leaves a little trail of breadcrumbs there with a green line of where you've been. This is a very short trip I'm doing. You can see the icon of the vehicle there, and where I am with the blue dot just on my front porch, trying to stay warm as I can. It was very cold out. So that was it. Just a quick trip. Bring it back home here. Getting back into the app, you can go and see the history of all your tracks that you've made. And here's the one that we just did. I clicked on it. You can look after the fact. You can even rotate it around in 3D, and so that's pretty cool to see what you did. Now, is that an important feature for you, for everybody? I don't know. I would like them to see them do a lot more with this. I mean, imagine if you could set up gates, GPS gates, and time your laps or something on a bigger course. I mean, that would be pretty cool. So I think the sky's the limit where you could take an app like this. Overall, this implementation, very simple, somewhat limited in what it can do, but it's kind of cool. And it will track that max speed, and you can see from the data I collected, at least if you believe the GPS, I don't know why you wouldn't, hit 20, 21 miles an hour. So not as fast as some other cars, but more than enough in my book. It's easy to crash this thing. These cars, you go over 20 miles an hour, and speed can be deadly to the vehicle. So you don't want to hurt the vehicle, hurt yourself, and 20 is pretty darn fast for these things, in my opinion. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed learning about the 7 unique features of this particular car. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you enjoyed learning about this vehicle, and check out our other content. I'll see you guys next time.